tanong ni mong laki, unsa man ka, okay ra ko. Nakay sakit, okay, okay ra. Sa mga lalaki, kami no, si brother, si Peter, unsa man, okay ka, okay. Sana okay na mo, di ba? Okay na siya. Pero sa babae, magsaputol mo na okay. Dili pa na ninyo lingwahe.
Maujo.
Okay ninyo is okay, dili okay, medyo okay, kanang. Ang lalaki yun, kung tanan din ng mong laki, okay, okay na mo na siya. No? Pero babae na din, lumusta naman ka, ay sus, hapon, ang sugod na hapon. Sugod na hapon. Hasta taas-taas. So, ang kinaya sa mga babae, you are more in touch of feelings. Doesn't mean emotional mo. Bali na yun kayo mo isa bali ka na makadetect. No? Maglingkod yung mga na, makaingon na yan, nana, imurad daw. Naglagod din. Diba? Maglingkod lang ba? Napasa na na mo. Ang laki ba, anak?
Instinct mo no ba? Sa mga asawa.
Naman mo, that's part of it. Importante na sa pagkamama. You are genetically for motherhood man, naawala sa iluhan. O ikaw, clueless ang kay ka, imong anak, sakit-sakit na, saan na kong anak, di ba mo mata? Lagi ng lawas. Sa tao lang yan, dili, may babae, no? Kunya, lagi dili masaktan, daghan ang inuuna. No? Mga anak na, daghan kayo tubag ang inyong asawa, no? Saka. Kasi problema. Kaya wala lagi. That's why sa mga babae, atong lesson niya to, lagi kayo nahuna-hunaan, isulti si inyong pana.
Yes.
Ay siya pagkasana. Panalitan, pinakasimple, magpatuloy ka, magpahirdo ka. Layo pag gani, no? Labi na may tagapasit, pataas kayo. Papaskinas si bahal po, sino mo pag-untok eh. Di ba, come on, dali kayo, no? Okay, you're very keen. Even sa color, makita mo, is it color? Kami, wala may anak. Alam ko, gagawin ako kay picture na kakit hard na to taas. Hindi agi, kung kumadal, ako.
to kill thousands. Came to Baron, of course. Tens of thousands. Our people are very grateful to you. The Lord bless us all. I would like to reward you. I offer you my daughter, Michal. Very own Majesty. David, we're brothers now. In return, 100 dead Philistines. What say you? 100 dead Philistines slain by your own hand. Father, this is life enough, right?
If he doesn't return.
I shall return. Okay.
Israel, and then for the nations around Israel. And then a key moment happened in chapter 33. Ezekiel receives a report that the Babylonian siege of Jerusalem is over because the city has fallen. The temple is destroyed. Ezekiel's grim words of warning came true. The exile was the most horrendous catastrophe that ever happened to Israel. And it raised the big questions of whether God was done with Israel for good. But remember, at the end of chapter 11, God promised that there was still a future beyond exile for Israel. And so the rest of the book is designed to explore Ezekiel's vision of hope. First for Israel, then for the nations, and then for all of creation. The hope for Israel begins with God promising to raise up a new David, a future messianic king, who's going to be the kind of leader that Israel needed but never got. And this new Israel, who's going to come under the Messianic king's rule, is going to be a transformed people. God's going to deal with the heart of their problem of rebellion by giving them new hearts. It's just like Moses promised at the end of the book of Deuteronomy. God says he's going to remove their hard hearts and send his Spirit into his people to give them new, soft hearts that can love and obey their God. And this idea gets developed in the next strange vision. Ezekiel sees a huge valley filled up with dry human bones and skeletons. And God tells him that it's an image, a metaphor for Israel's spiritual state. So their rebellion against God had resulted in exile and the literal death of many people, but it was also a metaphorical death of their covenant relationship. And God tells Ezekiel that his Spirit is coming to bring his people back to life. And so this wind comes, and it causes all of the bones to stand up, and it fills them with breath and life, and then skin grows over the bones, and then all of a sudden Ezekiel sees all of these new humans standing in front of him. Now this vision, it's recalling the story about the creation of humans in Genesis chapter 2, where God made humans out of dirt and divine breath. And so Israel and all humanity have rebelled, resulting in death. And so the only hope is that God will perform a new act of creation and remake humans in such a way that they can truly live in a relationship of love with God and with each other. And so after God is going to deal with the evil that's in the hearts of his own people, some questions still remain unresolved. Like, what about the evil that's still rampant out there among the nations? And what about the future of God's dwelling place in the temple? And this is what the final two sections of the book are about. So first come chapters 38 and 39, and they promise God's final defeat of evil among the nations, which gets personified by a ruler who's named Gog from the land of Magog. Now this name is derived from a genealogy of ancient kingdoms and lands from Genesis chapter 10, and it referred to powerful nations from the distant past. And so Ezekiel picks up this ancient biblical name as an image of any and all violent kingdoms. And so we find that God gets allied with 7 nations that come from all 4 directions of the compass. Is clearly an image that represents all of the nations. And this also helps us understand why Ezekiel describes God with images that he used earlier in the book to describe the king of Tyre and the king of Egypt, Pharaoh. For Ezekiel, Gog is an amalgam of all of the worst, most violent people in the Bible. Gog is the archetype of human rebellion against God. The basic story in these chapters is that God resists God's plan to restore his people. And so just like Pharaoh in the Exodus story, God comes to destroy the people. But God unleashes his justice on God, and it's in a flurry of scenes that don't actually make very good literal sense as you read them in sequence. Because first, God and his armies are consumed by an earthquake, but then they're consumed by fire, 2 different times. And then after that, God comes and strikes Gog and his army down in the fields where they lay unburied for months. It's clear that these scenes are full of symbols and imagery. Ezekiel has pulled out his entire poetic tool set here to describe how God is determined to finally defeat human evil that has ruined his world. And it's so that he can pave the way for a new creation. And so once evil is finally dealt with among the nations, the last section of the book describes how God's presence is going to one day return to his people and his temple to bring cosmic restoration. So Ezekiel first gets this long, elaborate vision of a new temple and a new city. He's given this heavenly tour guide who shows him around the new temple complex, and it's much larger and more majestic than even Solomon's temple. There's a new altar, new priests, a whole new system of worship. And then after this elaborate tour, God's glorious throne chariot that he saw back in his first vision comes back, and it enters the new